Hello, I am back with another podcast, man. I am juiced to be back. I'm absolutely juiced. It was super cool seeing all the support and like just the messages I got and just the whole feedback I got from the first one was super cool. I'm probably going to drop the second one I had pre-recorded. Probably going to drop it the day I'm recording this. So what is it, Friday? Man, I'm grateful. You guys are awesome. Didn't know how it would go over. Didn't know if people would actually listen. Amazing, absolutely amazing. It's really really cool to see. But on to the next. Okay, so we're talking about rest periods today, and specifically, why do supersets suck? Why do supersets suck? We have to start here. Okay, if we're gonna talk about rest periods, we got to talk about the most overrated strategy in all of strength and conditioning. Man, we are going backwards when we're using supersets. They suck. They suck. Okay. So I have some notes down, some things that I'm going to cover. I think it's better when I just write some notes down and just go with the flow. So the first thing I have down. Okay. So why supersetting sucks? Why do I make such a big deal about rest periods? Like if you've been following my stuff for a while, if you've talked to me like ad nauseum, man, I always talk rest periods because they're so important. You have to rest. Okay. This may make me unpopular, maybe. I know that we have a lot of busy work coaches. We have a lot of busy work trainers that are just trying to keep kids busy. I'm not in the business of keeping kids busy, right? I am in the business of making kids better, okay? So this is why I don't do this, okay? Firstly, it hurts outputs, okay? It absolutely damages outputs. You have to be able to rest, to recruit, and have maximal outputs. Okay, absolutely need to rest. Okay, so if I'm running sprints, we'll take it from a speed angle, then we'll work back into the strength stuff. Okay, if I'm running max effort sprints, okay, I'm running 10-yard flies. We're at 30-yard lead-ins, 10-yard flies. I'm trying to clock under a second, right? I'm trying to get into that mid 20-mile-an-hour range. Say I clock 102, my first true one, right? Then I walk back, and then I run another one. You think I'm going to clock 102? I've watched a million times. You have to rest. You cannot repeat maximal outputs without rest in between, right? Your body has to be able to recuperate and recover in order to re-recruit and fatigue new motor units, okay? So on the second point, it deteriorates motor unit recruitment set to set, okay? So working back into the strength stuff. If I'm benching a 5-rep max, right? I work up to something real heavy, I take it for 5, right? This is where brief maximal tension really becomes powerful, right? Is that I'm able to accumulate more max effort reps than everybody else can. My kids can hit more max effort reps than everybody else kids can, right? Because we're willing to rest them. Okay, so if I'm touching, 90% of my kids 1-rep max and I'm hitting them for 3s and 5s, right? They're going to need rest so then they can repeat those outputs. Okay, so it's absolutely going to deteriorate motor unit recruitment. We see this in studies. Chris Beardley has some really great research regarding hypertrophy training on how important it is to have upwards of 3 to 4 minutes of rest, even on isolation movements. Okay, we see that it can deteriorate motor unit recruitment set to set. And ultimately, the only reason that we are training is to develop the nervous system. We're trying to recruit more motor units in action. Okay, that is the reason that we train as athletes. That's the money. If there is one thing that you take away from this training, man, is you are trying to recruit motor units. Nothing else matters. It is the manipulation of the nervous system. That is what we are trying to do, okay? And so on that point, if we are deteriorating motor unit recruitment, that means that we're going to harm discharge frequencies, right? There's a reason that we train in that 1 to 6 rep range in strength. It's because we're trying to train the body to fire as many motor units in action as possible. We don't want sequential motor unit recruitment. We want it firing and popping, right? We don't want our body to fire in some long, drawn out sequence. We want our body to be able to produce as much force in the most smallest time frame possible. Okay? And so this is where it can harm discharge frequencies. If you're not resting enough, you are just constantly giving your kids a worse and worse stimulus every single set. Their best stimulus is the one they're rested with. And then you hit them again and they're not giving enough rest, well, you're just actually lessening the stimulus. You're giving them more work that they're going to have to recover from. It's like going to work and not getting paid. I've told my kids this before. I had a conversation with a kid about 2 months ago, right? He was like, Goodman, why do we got to rest so much? Why do we got to rest so much? Why do we rest so much? I'm like, I'm thinking, man, you go to work to get paid, right? You wouldn't go to a job for free, right? Why go to work? Why do all this work and not get paid with strength? Why? Why would you want to do that? Why go through all this stuff? Why do all these movements? Why do all this exercise? Why bust your butt doing all this training just to not get the adaptations you're looking for? It makes no sense. We're running backwards. This is what we don't want to do. Okay? And other thing, it may not allow high threshold motor units to be recruited. Okay? We're seeing in current research, not really current, but research that's been brought to light, specifically the last few years, more from like the hypertrophy side, but just in general, again, this can apply to any sort of strength training, is that if you are not resting enough, you will not allow your body to reach high threshold motor units because you will shut down before then. Okay? So when you are not allowing your body to rest, it's not going to maximally recruit. In order to reach high threshold motor units, we have to have some sort of maximal neural recruitment. Okay, and so in order for this to happen, right, we have to rest. We have to have as much energy as possible to recruit as many motor units as possible because the motor units are lazy. Okay, this is something you're starting to realize about all strength training. Motor units are lazy. Okay, they absolutely do not want to be recruited. They absolutely don't. In order for us to recruit them and train them and fatigue them, okay, because in order to train them, they have to get fatigued. In order for them to get fatigued, they have to get recruited. Once they are recruited, okay, in order for them to even see the necessary, the nervous system to see the necessary ability to recruit those motor units, the task has to be extremely difficult. It has to be taxing. It has to be an absolutely potent stimulus to want to recruit these high threshold motor units, which is, again, where the money is. This is where you make kids stronger. This is really where you see those quick gains. If you're able to tap into more high threshold motor units than everybody else, you have an automatic athletic advantage, okay? And so this is where long rest periods come in, okay? What do long rest periods create for us? Firstly, they're going to create maximal outputs, okay? They're going to allow us to feel fresh, allow our athletes to feel fresh so they can maximally recruit the most amount of motor units in action, okay? And so this is also going to allow us to repeat maximal outputs, okay? For example, I'll look back at, let me look back at a wave right now, okay? I'll pull up one of my kids' patterns right now. Okay, so we're looking at 3 sets of 4, okay? So this is something one of my kids did today. Okay, looks like their previous best triple was only 275. Okay, that's their previous best triple last wave. Okay, we're trying to beat that today. We're trying to actually get over that. So today it looks like he did 300 for 2 sets, and then we ended up dropping the last 2. Okay, and so firstly, he already beat his best. He beat his previous best, right? He crushed it. He beat it by 25 pounds. But he was able to do that twice. How could he have beaten, and this was only a few weeks ago, how would he have beaten and increased 25 pounds in just a few weeks and then repeated that? Well, I'll tell you what, he rested about 6 minutes. I know this kid, okay? And so this kid probably rested about 6 minutes because I was there. Again, I will talk about what I recommend, but he rested about 6 minutes, was able to grind and strain and get that next set, and then we had to drop him, okay? And that would not have been possible if I would have put him under that bar 2 or 3 minutes later, okay? And so this is the next thing. Because I was able to give him 2 sets at 300, he not only he only squatted his absolute best, he beat it by a rep. He beat it by a whole rep, right? He was able to accumulate more total tonnage than he was ever able to accumulate before, okay? And so where this becomes important is that if my athletes can accumulate more tonnage over time, they are going to get stronger. If my athletes can accumulate more tonnage than your athletes, my athletes will be stronger than your athletes, okay? Ultimately, tonnage is just a measurement of work, okay? It's a measurement of that stimulation, okay? And so if my athletes are able to accumulate more than your kids, my athletes will be stronger, okay? If they're able to accumulate more than their previous best performance, they will get stronger, okay? Long rest periods are going to create more total tonnage, which ultimately means more work. Generally, we think if we give them less rest periods, they're getting less work. No, okay? If we say, oh, they're getting less rest periods, so we're going to be able to do more in a session. Density, training density, overrated. Training density is overrated. Absolutely. Is it a nice, sexy idea on the surface? Absolutely. But it is an overrated training adaptation. It's absolutely an overrated training methodology that does not lead to adaptation that long rest periods do. Okay? So my athletes are able to accumulate more tonnage. So we actually get more work done, and it's higher quality. Can't beat that, can it? I get more quantity and I get more quality. Okay, I get more quantity because I get more quality. Okay, absolutely crucial to making kids stronger. Okay, last one. Most people don't talk about this, man. Long rest periods create predictability. Long rest periods create predictability. You need to be able to have and create predictability in your strength training regime, okay? In order to develop really freakishly strong athletes, you need predictability. You need consistent progression. When you have long rest periods, that's a variable that is controlled for. Think about all the things that you can't control for, right? Think about the food, and the diet, and the sleep, and the water. Man, I can't tell you how many kids come in the weight room and said, "Coach, I haven't drank anything really today. Can I get some water?" "Why have you not drank any water?" "I don't know." "Coach, I only slept a few hours last night." "What were you doing?" "I was up talking to a girl." "Oh, I was on TikTok." You know what I mean? So those are things I can't control, right? It also makes my job interesting because now I had to solve this puzzle that kids are just continuing to break apart. I think I got them solved, and they just break something apart, which is fine. You know, they're kids, and this is why they have me. If they had it all figured out, they wouldn't need me, right? So this is where I come in. This is how I help them. And so by controlling rest periods, we get more consistent progression. And ultimately, that's the most important thing, right? We want consistent progression. We want to be able to control as many variables as possible, because if we can control as many variables as possible, we get a more predictable result, right? This also allows us to figure out what is not working. If we have problems in our training and they are not predictable, if they're not consistent variables being controlled, we never really know what's working, what's not working. And this is how you start to experiment with things. You have to control for as many variables as possible, right? We know human error is going to mess up things. We absolutely know. We know whether you work with high school kids, you work with college, it doesn't even matter. You work with any athlete, you know that you cannot control everything. But what I can control is I can control how long my kids rest, right? I can control that variable. And that variable creates predictability for me. And that means for my brief maximal tension, I can wave them in a specific pattern because I know how they work, right? This is something that I have a hard time if I get a new athlete, or you know, somebody wants to work with me, like, you know, somebody talks to me online or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, you know, what do I do from here? Hey, I hit these sets, what do I do?" And I'm just like, "Man, I don't train you," or "I've never seen you squat, I've never seen you bench, I've never seen you do some of these movements. I don't know your patterns." It takes me time to learn patterns. I have kids, I can think of specific kids right now in my mind, okay? These kids have specific patterns, right? They blow reps up and they can't grind the next one, right? I have kids that can absolutely grind every single rep, that move everything slow. Every rep looks the same and it's slow as shit, right? I can see this in certain athletes, okay? So it allows me to create patterns. And so by giving long rest periods, I create predictability, okay? Next thing I want to talk about, is it realistic, right? Is this realistic? Can you actually do this? Well, I'm here to tell you it is realistic because I, like many of you, work with high school athletes. And guess what? I'm in a public school, which means that I probably have less time than you. I probably have more things to work around than you. Or we have the same amount of things to work around. We still have the same amount of time, okay? So it's not like I'm in some environment where I can control everything. I actually have less control of variables than other people do, especially in the private realm, okay? High school strength class. I have strength classes. How do I control for rest periods? How do I get these kids to get a good workout in? How do I get them to train? How do I get them to do this stuff while affording them long rest periods? Well, here's how it works, okay? We have our main lifts, okay? My kids, it's communicated, it's coached. Our main lifts are the bread and butter. These are the things that we have to have, okay? These are the things that are the most important thing we do. Okay, so they already know. This is, you know, again, I've been here for a few years now, so my kids know. They know what I expect and kind of how we do things. But the main lift, it always gets the most attention. Accessories is when you can start to play around with different rest periods and different things like that. But the way that I can make it work, again, in my classes, so we're on a flex schedule, so we have a block schedule. So some days I have 78 minutes, and some days I get 59 minutes. Okay, doesn't change the training. Right? Only thing I do is I chop off some things that we can't afford to do on those 60-minute days. We still get our long rest periods. We still get our main accessories. We still progress. We still wave. We still brief max. We do everything, right? I just pull back on certain things that I don't think we need. I cut off that little bit of fluff, that little bit of soft tissue work, that little bit of, a little bit of band work, that type of stuff. That's the stuff I'm starting to chop off, right? Doesn't mean that we can't accumulate those things on those days. It just means that I have to be more aware of what our time parameters are so that I can make a better training day for these kids to still get the same adaptations that they need. Okay. And so, yes, it works in high school strength classes. I give my kids 4 to 6 minutes of rest. Really, 4 to 5 minutes is ideal. 4 to 6 minutes. I have kids that rest upwards of more than that. Again, because I get to do after school training as well, I'm able, if kids, so my stronger kids take more than that rest time. Sometimes they pop in at the end of the day and they finish up some band work. Or they finish up some of their other stuff. So sometimes they'll pop in, but again, not necessary. Okay. And on to the after school kids. My after school kids, I'm there we open the weight room up after school at 2:30. I'm there till about 3:30, 4 o'clock, which means I'm there for about an hour and a half after school. And so again, I have kids that come and do their entire training session, especially the young guys, right? I have a lot of like freshmen and middle schoolers and stuff like that come in and train after school. They're able to get their entire session done in an hour and a half, and they get these long rest periods. So what does that mean? That means that I'm never trading quality. I'm always making sure that they're getting enough training, but that we're never compromising rest periods. Okay, that is an absolutely huge component of what I do, is I let my kids rest. It also makes the training enjoyable. Kids like to show up and train. Kids like to do it. I mean, think about it. If you played a sport, like I know for me, I played sports growing up. Practices were miserable, man. They are miserable. Practices could be so miserable. You would run, you do push-ups, you do all this extra stuff. You wouldn't even play your sport half the time, right? Stuff was miserable. Go tell a kid, hey, I want you to go hit that weight, and then I want you to sit down and I want you to sit on your phone for 5 minutes. I don't want you to do nothing. I just want you to hang out. Go run a sprint, and then I want you to come sit down. I want you to rest. I want you to feel fully ready. Dude, it's a completely different vibe from the kids. The kids love it. Kids don't want to, go run around and do burpees and all that stuff. Kids don't want to do that, right? They want to actually put time into training that actually works and enjoy the process of it. This will make training so much more enjoyable for you and also more enjoyable for the kids. And aside from that, when kids are able to rest, that's when you build relationships. This is when you build those relationships. This is when you talk to kids. This is when you learn about them. You get a better understanding of their situation. Like, this is crucial. This is stuff you don't always see like on Strength and Conditioning Twitter. This is also super crucial. You have to understand what kids are doing day to day in order to adjust to their training. Okay. Again, this is kind of getting long. It's like 7. Again, I try to keep these short. I know a lot of you like listen to them on the way to home and car rides and things like that. So I try to keep them quick. Okay. So you're probably wondering, what are the typical times for my athletes? Okay. No secrets here. I'll give them to you. Okay. Brief maximal tension work. Okay. In between working sets, 4 to 6 minutes of rest. Okay. This is what my between working sets rest is. On the warm up, take as much time as you need. Right? So if realistically, it should take you no more than 10 minutes to warm up on a squat if you're a 400-some pound squatter. Again, but we're not timing and clocking out rest periods for warm ups. I don't care. Get to your working weight and let's rock. That's kind of the way that we do it. And then after you hit a set, so bench, you hit your bench, 5s. Okay, you hit your set of 5. Sit down. I have a clock on Team Builder because we use Team Builder, so you can hit the clock, or the kids will just watch. We have a CrossFit kind of clock, clock up there, like the Rogue ones. We have one of those, so the kids will look at that, or I'll look at that and say, hey, next set at this time kind of thing. So again, 4 to 6 minutes is ideal. This is going to be pretty average for my after-school kids that like to chat. They get upwards of 10 minutes of rest in between. Okay, I'm not going to be the coach that's, hey, let's go, let's rock, let's go. Unless kids are like sitting, again, I don't really have this problem, kids sitting around for 30 minutes, but unless we're speed squatting, I'm absolutely fine with them resting that long as they're getting their sets done. Again, I am worried about the outcome. I am not worried about how we get there. I'm only worried about the outcome. I am worried about the result. That is all I care about, okay? All I care about is the results. I don't care if it takes them longer. I don't care if it's inconvenient for me to have to let these kids wrestle. I don't care. I care about their results. That's all I care about. That's the only thing that matters to me is the results. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably just like me. All you care about is kids' results. All you want to do is help them get better. Okay? And that's why I let them rest that long. It absolutely is necessary for them to get better. Okay? Accessory movements, main accessories on secondary movements. Okay? These are going to be bigger accessory movements. 2 to 4 minutes, generally more like 3 to 4. If they're weak, 2 to 4, but generally about 3 to 4. between working sets on those, and those are usually like 1 to 2 working sets, not very long. Isolation accessories, okay, so like our band and hamstring curls and our push downs and all that type of stuff, about 2 minutes. Doesn't have to take very long, about 2 minutes. And then GPP stuff, 0 to 2 minutes. So if I gave them conditioning at the end, say we march, say we carry, whatever, right? 0 to 2 minutes, and that is up to the adaptation, okay? And so this is how I run rest periods for my kids, okay? Ultimately, as I figured out the rest periods, I saw the strength blow up, saw the speed blow up, I saw the jumps blow up. You have to rest, man. It's one of the most important things. If there's nothing else to take away from this podcast, is just give your kids a little bit more time. If you are on some sort of strict schedule, I know it can be stressful, but ultimately it's going to pay off more for them, and which means it's going to pay off more for you because your success is literally based off of their success. How strong they get is literally the reflection of you as a coach. Same thing with speed and jumping and that. It's going to pay off for everybody in the building if you give those kids enough rest. And the culture is going to be better, and kids are going to like being there, and kids are going to talk to each other. Kids are going to make friends. It's truly a game changer. So if there's one thing, let the kids rest. Let the athletes rest. Okay? Let them rest.